So anyway, I learned that I could actually do it as well thanks to Brett. I had had some failed attempts. I actually was for a while years ago. I found myself more in the role of a debunker of a lot of the things. Would do a recording, and someone say, "Oh, listen to that. That's a spirit." No, I say that's Joe in the other room. He was talking, and these recorders can pick up more than you think they can.
They
You know?
can. Yeah, that's my
So,
neighbor yelling at his wife again. He always does. This is around dinner time, and he doesn't like her meatloaf. It's
yeah.
true. It's true.
So you've got to be, you got to be discerning. it's
You
it's not
do.
easy. So
And
anyway,
and and you want to because you really want to know the truth. Like I really want to know. So why would I fool others or fool myself? And there's a lot of people that will just fool themselves so they can say they have something. And that's, you don't have to do that. If you just go to the right areas and you're open in the right way,
hmm
I just think that's where you're going to get your stuff. And that is a also, I think a talent is learning who to hang out with and do things with and who not to. Because if you are around those that want to fake it or want it to happen or will embellish, it just totally screws up your research. So even with my show, if we think you're out of bounds, you're out. Why? Because it's my show and I can head it the way I want. Like if I'm doing some other show, somebody else's show, and they have them on, I got to deal with it or leave. And I'm not 24 trying to make things happen in my life. I'm at a point of I'm going to pick and choose, right? And I don't like to be around people that everything's a Bigfoot or everything's a ghost or everything's this because it's not. And maybe if it is, great, we have hit the jackpot. But I'm certainly going to
hmm
be there and figure it out too to make sure that is the case. And I hope I'm just as surprised
yeah,
and that's the case.
I've gotten where I'm really cautious about who I enter the field with. I've been with people who would go, and I remember, for instance, going with one newspaper guy. He had a column in a Tennessee paper, and he was writing about UFOs and things, and he said he'd got a letter from these people who had seen something. So we were going to rendezvous out in the country somewhere. It was along the side of the road. And they were going to show us, I think, where they had seen this object. But before they could utter a word, there were three people. He proceeds to tell them about the men in black and about contactees. And I'm just standing there and, like, oh, come on now. Uh, you're you're just telling all these stories and they haven't even had a chance to tell what, if they're not the right people, we don't know what's going to happen next. But anyway, after he got done, they actually just simply told a story about seeing a cigar-shaped object moving across the sky, and I was thinking, okay, at least they're just telling a regular UFO story,
Right.
But he was like downloading, implanting possible scenarios that if they weren't honest people, they could have, just come at us with
Yeah.
some really wild tales. I know
True.
I remember there was one place I had heard about these teenagers. Somebody from a TV station. There'd been reports of Bigfoot around this area, and anyway, I was told that after the news people left, they were just laughing like, "Oh boy, we sold them a good one, didn't we?" Well,
Yes, yes, yes. Brent, I got to ask you, you don't sound like I grew up in Kentucky. You don't sound like a Tennessee boy. Are you from Maine or something? Where's that accent?
Maine. Yeah,
Oh my gosh, really?
yeah, yeah. You hit the nail on the head there. Yes,
Yay, that's awesome. That's awesome. You got that, right? You recorded that, right?
yes, yes, yes. Yes,
Oh, thank you,
I'm
God. Thank you,
originally
God.
I'm born and raised in Holyrood, Maine, which is right next to the capital of
I didn't
Augusta.
even know that. And maybe I said something even on coast. Maybe it was in my head somewhere along the way, but I don't remember it. So I am taking that one up. Yay.
Yes, have you been to Maine or?
I have friends from there. I have one particular friend that I've known for so long, and you just said words just like him. And I'm like, You're from Maine.
Guilty
He's the
as
only one I
charged.
know that talks like that. So,
Yeah, we went up to see parents one time, and uh, my wife was at the house, my parents' house, by herself. The phone rang, and it was someone wanted to talk to my father, and he couldn't understand her, and she couldn't understand him.
I'm going to tell you, growing up in Kentucky, I talk like you guys in Maine, and they told me I had a speech impediment, and I had to take classes every Friday for 15 minutes in first grade and second grade to get rid of that so-called Maine accent. So maybe I lived in Maine from another life or something like that.
There you
Because
go. Maybe that was it. That's that.
so I
A
hear
guy
y'all
was killing
talking.
you.
Yeah, I hear y'all talking. I'm like, man, I apparently had a speech impediment. Like when y'all talk like that, it's
Well, of
so
course,
fun.
my daughter, people would ask her, school teachers, like, uh, where are you from? Oh, right here. But of course, her dad is from Maine, so she's kind of
That's
in between.
funny. Yeah, absolutely. Picking it up everywhere.
Yeah, but
I'm so happy. That was good. That made my day. That made my day.
yeah,
You know, you got to trust your instincts. That's what this is all about too, is trusting your instincts, right? If you
mhm,
hear something like on my show, because it's live, and some people will say, "Oh, I think I just had this vision of like apple pie or something," and I'll say it, write it down, just remember it, say it in the live stream so everybody will remember that. Even though it sounds silly, any time you notice something odd of your thoughts or you smell something unique in the middle of nowhere, say something on the live stream when we do the updates back to everybody that are a part of the, it's an interactive show. So I say that all the time. And at the end of it, it always means something. It on the last day we're there, we'll all go, remember when you said you smelled the apple pie? Look, whatever it might be.
yeah.
It's amazing, those little things. So always hold on to that stuff.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So while we're talking about, well,
One of them had to do with that light, just to butt in on you real quick, because you like these light things. One of them, I was at a place, and I
mhm,
remember I love the moon. I've always loved the moon. It's romantic, and I can be like to my man wherever he might be, honey, look up at the moon. We're both looking at the same moon. You're in Europe, and I'm here, and look at the moon. Whatever it is, but
mhm,
so I love the moon. So I was one of the nights that we were out a bigfooting. I remember looking up because I like staying in vehicles because you can look out at any time. If you're in a tent, you can't see anything. But so my head's up against the window, and I look up and I'm like, oh, the moon! Look at the moon! It's so beautiful. It's so round. It's so bright. Ow, man, it hurt. It's burning my eyes. So the next day when I was doing the live stream. From that location. This is what happened last night. It was very dark, blah, blah, blah. And I remember seeing the full moon. It was so beautiful. It burned my eyes, though, which is kind of weird, but it was beautiful. And I'm thinking, I'm up in the Rockies. I'm a lot closer to the moon than anywhere else in the world, kind of thing. So maybe that was it. But man, it was beautiful. Such a crisp full moon. And of course, in the live stream, somebody says there was no full moon last night. It was like it was looking at me. It was looking at me. It had its thing right on me. That's why my eyes burned. Which is kind of interesting because remember that old movie a long time ago when the babysitter was babysitting the child and she kept getting phone calls and she told the police and the police called and said, whoever's calling you, they're calling you from the house. It's kind of that same feeling. Oh my
yeah,
gosh. It was on me that night. It was looking at me. It was
yeah,
watching me.
yeah. There was actually the way that my wife and I met because she's here in Tennessee. So I was in the Navy at the time, and I was told, everybody on the ship knew pretty much if they knew me, they knew I was interested in UFOs.
Oh, you're
Uh,
that guy, right? You were that
yeah,
guy.
I was that guy. So yeah, well, I know this girl in Tennessee. Yeah, she's interested in the subject. So
Excellent.
we're pen pals, and she had seen. Um, she was visiting a girlfriend next door. They were sitting on the hood of a car, and there were some guys there. She doesn't remember who they are now, but this was back around 1972.
Wow, I haven't done that in a long time. Laying there with your man on the hood of a car or your friends, right?
Yeah, and
It was
she
warm.
says she just happened to look up, and she says there was this big round thing. She said bigger than the full moon, and
Oh,
she goes on about this. How I kept saying, Are you sure it was bigger than the full moon? You know how big the full moon is? And she says, of course I know how big the full moon was. But
What's
she
wrong
says
with you?
it was big and round. It was coming down. And as soon as she said, look, and pointed her finger at it, it stopped and started going back up.
Oh,
Yeah. And disappeared, you know. And I said, well,
wow.
that's quite a sighting. I mean, that's almost as good as being able to go over to one and kick its hubcaps, you know.
And then you met and fell in love.
Yeah, yeah. It
Or you fell in love then met on this particular one, maybe, since you got to know her as a pen pal.
yeah, I came down here, you know, in the summer of '75. I spent from July to September, part of September, out on the road from Maine to Florida, traveling around and investigating cases. And she was uh, she was my point person here in Tennessee. She had all these clippings. There was a guy up in a nearby county who was writing newspaper columns about the sightings. He even wrote a book with a NASA scientist from Huntsville about cases he was investigating.
Ah,
So I come down here and I spent 2 weeks in July of '75, and then we corresponded, and you know, it's just one thing led to another.
excellent.
So by
Excellent.
November 1977, November 26th, we got married, and been here ever since. Yep.
That's nice. That's
Mhm.
nice. And I only lost a little bit of that accent, just a little. I'm not even hearing you say you all or nothing. You're not saying anything like that.
Oh, okay, I can,
You
y'all.
you avoided. Okay. Well, it's funny because I grew up in Kentucky, and it was always that Clay Gaunt's, that professor that looked like George Carlin that had it was performance class, so he taught us how to get rid of y'all. But we could say
Mhm.
you guys like Ohio folk. It's like wait a minute. Now we sound like Ohio people. I'd rather at least sound like a Kentuckian still, but no, you pick up that you guys because that's okay to say broadcasting wise across the world. It's like what? But it's just funny how that is. But I'll a little margarita, pina colada, a little glass of wine, something like that, because I'm a CIA grad, so you got to have food and wine. You all come out.
Yeah.
It'll come out, y'all, actually.
Okay. So I
Did that
guess
work on time?
yeah.